I'm inside the KDK TV studios following a big win for the Pittsburgh Steelers against what was the number one team in the AFC, the Indianapolis Colts. Bob Pompiani with you, and Chris Hokey Bro 76 is over celebrating with his teams on a reunion with that Super Bowl championship from 20 years ago. With us today, of course, would be Arthur. Don't cross the moats. How are you, Arthur? Good to see you.
Man, feeling good, especially after this Sunday victory right here, man. So definitely excited to be here as Hokey Bro is over here doing all the, fancy stuff with them rings on his fingers.
They all got a lot of bling over there, and the Steelers would like to get another, and this is maybe a first step in that direction. All I know is this was very similar to the New England game where the Steelers forced 5 turnovers. Today, for the first time in 15 years, the Steelers forced 6 turnovers against a team that was turnover free basically all season long. They made 4 turnovers in 8 games total, and today 6 by the Steelers. And when they do that, short fields, it resulted in points. 3 of their interceptions turned into 21 points.
Yeah, you saw today, this is why they are the highest paid defense. This is why you invest in them, because of their ability to have these games where they just become an avalanche almost. Whether we're talking the pass rush, right, in terms of how much under duress Daniel Jones was, or the turnovers and how they come in bunches, whether we're talking strip sacks, interceptions, heck, even Danny Smith and the special teams got in on the action. So that's what you want to see, and that's the way that this team is right now, almost in a feast or famine-like manner. But when they're on, they are on.
Tell you what, one guy had a really big day. They all did. But I would look at number 41. Peyton Wilson was outstanding today. Not only did he intercept Danny Jones, that ended up in a touchdown to Pat Freiermuth, but he also knocked one in the air, and then Jack Sawyer comes up with his first career interception. That too turned into points after the Watt strip sack turned into points. That's what the Steelers do, and when they do it well, we haven't seen that last couple of games. It results in a big game like today, and so they get to 5-3. Your thoughts about also the offense here, because they did take advantage. When you get the opportunities, it's one thing to get them, it's another thing to turn them into points, and on those 3 I described, it turned into 21 points.
You're absolutely right, and I'm glad that you brought up the offense, because it was complementary football. That's what we call this when you're watching defense create turnover, offense turn that turnover into touchdowns. Yeah, we settled for a field goal on occasion, but for the majority of the time, they were able to punch it in for 7 points, and that's where you see the difference. And if you've watched this Colts team throughout the season, that's honestly how they've played. They've been the ones that continue to score and then take away the ball and just ultimately squeeze you out. So for us to be able to do that versus this Colts team that, like we said, for the previous 8 weeks have been looking unstoppable at times, that's the impressive part, and that's the optimistic part as well if you're a fan of this team right now.
Yeah, Indy started real fast. They marched 13 plays into the end zone, 7-0. But ever since that point, the Steelers really took over this game. We have a lot coming up here on the Ford Extra Point. You're going to have interviews with Mike Tomlin as well as players. And then afterwards, we will take your phone calls on a special edition of the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. You see the final. It's a big one. Steelers 27, Colts 20. The Steelers get to 5-3. And that's at least a 2-game lead over the rest of the teams in that North Division. We'll talk more about that and more. Interviews next. Mike Tomlin at the podium when we come back right here on KDKA+.
Steelers Extra Point is presented by RE/MAX Select Realty, voted the most trusted agents in real estate.
Steelers get a much-needed win today after a couple of losses in a row, and you wondered if they're going to be able to turn up the dial and create some things defensively, and they did today against this explosive Indianapolis Colts team. At least they were for the first 8 games. Not so much today. They were silenced after that first drive of 13 plays, 79 yards. Let's take a look at the scoring summary as we await Mike Tomlin. And you can see right off the bat, Jones capped that 13 plays, 79-yard drive as they went on 4th down twice in that one, and they converted. They were 5 for 5 today on 4th down. So they led 7-0. Right after that, it was Warren scoring. This is after the T.J. Watt strip sack. And then it was Aaron Rodgers converts to Pat Freiermuth. You like those 2-play drives. That happened after the Peyton Wilson interception. Boswell, Mr. Automatic, adds a 25-yard field goal, so 17-7. And then that stayed that way until the 4th quarter. I thought the 3rd quarter, Arthur, was a good one for the Steelers because the Colts had 2 possessions, couldn't really move the ball. Warren gets another touchdown. Badgley with a 52-yarder to make it a 14-point game. Boswell countered that with a 46-yarder, 27-10. And then a late score after that, Jones to Downs to make it 10. They had one more field goal, but it was too little too late as the Steelers come away with a win. And again, I think that that drive, that first one, the Steelers got to tie the game. This is after T.J. Watt had the strip sack. There were 2 third down conversions, both of them to Calvin Austin, really good plays by him,
Absolutely.
good throws by Aaron Rodgers, and there was also a 4th and 1 a tush push by
It was
Connor
good
Hayward.
to see, absolutely. I mean, we know the tush push, the effectiveness of it, so why not run it when you have that ability to do that? But the thing that really stood out, though, in that, as you were reading those scores off, the fourth quarter. We think about what happened to us last week versus Green Bay, right? The amount of unanswered points that took place going into the fourth quarter. Steelers had a lead going into the fourth quarter. But you look at this week, that second half, man, third quarter, nothing happens, right, in terms of points allowed. And then even in the fourth quarter, yes, the Colts outscored them, but the manner in which they did it, how much time it took, it was the perfect complement to what we were trying to do. And this is how this team is built. When they play this type of style, offensively, defensively, and on special teams, they're a tough team to handle regardless of the records, because we all know how fearful some of us were when we were just looking at this team after what happened to us a week ago.
Coming into this game, the Steelers have given up 47% of their points in the fourth quarter. So what you said is true, especially third quarter. I thought that was, the Colts had the ball to start that third quarter, and that first drive, Steichen said so when he came out of the locker room talking to Evan Washburn. This is a big drive for us, and the Steelers made it routine. They got off the field quickly, and then Indianapolis really fell too far behind, even for all the offensive punch they have. The other key, and Mike Tomlin made this a point last week coming into this game, stop Jonathan Taylor, and boy did they. I think he only had 45 yards, and I don't remember one run other than an 8-yarder maybe that was anything more than that. They contained him.
Yeah, and think about this, right? We've been watching our run defense struggle, even going back to that Thursday night game against Chase Brown and the Bengals. And we're like, how do we figure that out? Do we need to blitz more? Is it a personnel issue? But now you fast forward and we're going against one of the best rushing attacks in the National Football League with an excellent offensive line. But the difference to me was the stars showed up. Cam Hayward, Derek Harmon, they established in that trenches that they weren't going to allow a lot of movement. I thought Peyton Wilson and Patrick Queen, along with Malik Harrison, did an excellent job also in terms of being physical, turning back the run. And then you saw where the game became one-dimensional. Daniel Jones having to do a little bit more, dropping back, having to be a little bit more aggressive than they would like, and it worked out in our favor, exactly how we liked it.
It certainly did. 7-point win for the Steelers. Mike Tomlin is live right now over at Acrisure Stadium. Let's take you there.
But we certainly deserved it based on the last performance. I like the way the guys absorbed it, smiled in the face of it, and prepared and waited for the next opportunity. That's the National Football League, man. You get one shot about every 7 days, and sometimes you got to wear it. We certainly wore it this week. I'm appreciative of their spirit, their efforts, their resolve. Certainly we weren't perfect in any of the three phases, but we fought, we did what was necessary, we made plays. And so it's a big-time win for the collective. Can't say enough about the defense's effort to minimize the runner. I don't think you slow that group down unless you minimize the runner. And we were able to do that, and I think that's why we were able to get them in some one-dimensional circumstances, create some pressure, get some sacks, and the turnovers that go along with that. But it started with minimizing their dynamic runner, and he is that. He's dynamic. Thought we started a little slow on offense. We took the ball to keep the ball away from their dynamic offense, but we didn't do much with it there early. But again, it didn't overcome us. We stayed in the fight. The defense provided some short fields. We caught some momentum because of it. That's team football. Isaac Seumalo's got a peck. Wasn't able to finish. We got some other guys with some bumps and bruises. I think Slade dislocated his finger, was able to go back in. Can't say enough about Kyle Duggar. Just gave him a game ball in there. This guy got on the moving train, man, and played a lot of defense for us today, and we needed it. We were really short at the safety position tonight, coupled with D. Elliott's injury. We had some illness and some soft tissue injuries, man. We were running super thin, and that dude came in here, man, and gave us some quality work, and we're certainly appreciative of that. Questions?
How do you explain such a drastic difference? You shut down the run, take the ball away. You hold up. That's a high-scoring team in the league.
It's a fine line between drinking wine and squashing grapes in this business. It's nothing dramatic, It's really not. And that's why we respect it so much. Couple plays here and there, it might have been different last week. We don't give up the 59-yard ball, the 33-yard ball. We don't let them convert on 4th and 1 in the flat, for example, in the third quarter. That's football at this level. it's a limited number of plays or sequences that can really change the trajectory of an outcome. We're still the same group that stunk it up last week. That's football.
You call that 4-3 alignment, and what was the thinking behind using that?
I'm not going to get into detail there, but we're just trying to utilize the people that we had at our disposal. We were limited in a lot of ways in the secondary, and so the people that have been here, we had to find ways for them to contribute, and so it got us out of this week. We'll see what next week holds.
A lot of times when you guys have combated the quick passing game, you've been very proficient at batting the ball down at the line of scrimmage. It seems like you got back to that today. Was that an area of emphasis?
We're always on that. Sometimes we're successful, sometimes we're not. It's not like all of a sudden we're in that business this week. We're in that business every week.
Like what kind of momentum or wave did that TJ strip sack provide for you?
It was everything. You know, we were running on the beach offensively. We needed a short field. And like all great players do, man, he provided it when we needed it most.
Coach, I talked to Joe Hayden a couple weeks ago, and he was saying one of the indicators about you when you kind of tweak things, he said it always shows. We talked about your Super Bowl victories near Tampa. So this week, did you take any extra care maybe of maybe tweaking some things, as Joe was saying?
It is my job to do what's required to provide these guys what it is they need, formally and informally, strategically. It's just a job.
I know last week you somewhat bemoaned having to settle for field goals, but 3 of their turn-ups turned into touchdowns. So I'm assuming, now obviously that was big for your offense and defense.
It was complementary football, you know. But that's what happens when you take the ball away from people, man. It feeds itself, and you know that's probably one of the most disappointing things about the stretch.
Tomlin giving a game ball to Kyle Duggar, just got here, made significant plays. It was mostly a hands-on-deck kind of thing, all hands, because they had a lot of injuries back there. And midway through the week, we knew that Chuck Clark wasn't going to play. So Ramsey switches back there, but he did a pretty good job, Duggar did, and so he gets a game ball as they win that game. We had some wild stuff going on during that Mike Tomlin press conference. We're watching the Bears and the Bengals. Now, you knew the Bengals can score, but you also know their defense is very vulnerable. So Cincinnati had the lead 42-41 with a minute left, and what happens? It's a Loveland with a 55-yard touchdown with like 10 seconds left, and right now the Bears, 47-42 over the Bengals. They're going to be really killing themselves over last week losing to the Jets the way they did, and this week it'll put them at 3-6 in the division.
I mean, it's one of those things when you're talking about finishing the game. We've been victims of it where you're like, how did they not win this one? Or you have everything lined up the way that it's supposed to be, but the finish matters. And Cincinnati, I mean, that's been their modus operatus all season. They can score points when their quarterback play is operating the way they're supposed to, but defensively, they have an extremely tough time stopping teams with consistency. Yeah, that Bears team is showing it right there.
Yeah, today Joe Flacco almost 500 yards passing, 4 touchdown passes, and it wasn't enough. All right, here what was enough was the turnovers. It reminded me of the New England game. The Steelers came up with big plays at big times, denying New England a chance, and today it really affected Daniel.
Steelers Nation, what a night on one hand, and what a reality check on the other. The Pittsburgh Steelers pulled off a huge win over the Colts, 27-20, and on paper, it looked like a defining moment. The defense took over. They forced 6 turnovers. They got 5 sacks. They locked down one of the top offenses in the league and showed up when it mattered most. This was the kind of win you hope for when your season is teetering, when questions surround your identity, your toughness, your ability to win the big ones. And for a while, it looked like the black and gold answered in full. But before we pop the champagne, let's talk truth. Even in victory, there was a blow the Steelers cannot afford. Isaac Seumalo, the veteran left guard who anchors the offensive line, re-aggravated his pectoral injury. He exited the game and did not return. The timing is brutal. The win is sweet, but the warning sign is vivid. Let's start with the win itself. Indianapolis came in rolling, their offense humming, their confidence high. Pittsburgh did not open with flash. The offense sputtered early, yes, but the defense, that unit dug in. On a key 4th down fake punt, the Colts tried to keep their drive alive, and the Steelers stripped the ball and flipped the field. TJ Watt forced it. The corner turned sharp. Moments later, Peyton Wilson jumped in for an interception. The momentum shifted. From that point on, the Colts looked like a team on its heels. The Steelers tasted blood, and they pounced. Jaylen Warren ran it in for a touchdown to tie the game. Freiermuth hauled in one inside the red zone. Boswell iced a field goal at the half. The narrative flipped. The house held. Suddenly, a night of fear became a night of hope. But now the concern, Suamalo. The same pec issue that bothered him last week. The same issue that has raised flags about the durability of the offensive line. When Suamalo left, the Steelers lost more than a man. They lost confidence in one of their foundational units. The running game adjusts. The protection scheme twists. The jumbo package, the heavy sets, they all wobble. And in the AFC North, when you face the good teams, tiny cracks become wide canyons. The Steelers must protect Rodgers. They must open holes for the backs. The gap where Suamalo left looms large. Still, let's not lose sight of the bigger picture. The fact is, the Steelers won. They outfought a top offense. They defended like champions when the lights were bright. They sent a message, we are still here. The characters showed, the building blocks are there. And yes, while Suamalo's injury is a setback, it doesn't erase the win. It just reminds us the margin for error is thin. For Pittsburgh, this win could be the catalyst, the turning point. If they ride this wave, if they heal smartly, if the line holds and Suamalo recovers, they may look back at this night as the moment the season flipped. So here's where we go from here. The Steelers take the joy of the victory, but they also carry the vigilance of the injury. They must treat the win as a foundation, not a peak. They must acknowledge Suamalo's loss, adjust the line, keep the momentum on defense, and keep the offense moving. Because wins like this don't just get handed, they get built. And in a division as brutal as the AFC North, you build every week. Steelers Nation, I believe in what I saw tonight. I believe this team cut through noise, cut through doubt, and staked a claim. The injury, yes, concerns me, but I believe in the resilience of this squad. I believe they'll respond, protect their own, and keep charging. If they do, this victory will mean something far greater than 3 points. It will mean hope. Now I want you to weigh in. Did this win convince you the Steelers are back in business? Or are you too worried about Suamalo on the line to fully believe? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you felt the surge tonight, hit that like button. And if you're all in with the journey, subscribe to Steelers Nation Wire because we're on this ride together. Black and gold forever.